Dearborn Girl is a weekly podcast that catalogs the beautifully complex stories of Arab and or Muslim women from the Dearborn community. If you haven't heard, Dearborn, Michigan is home to the largest Arab Muslim population in any city outside of the Middle East. But for some reason, we are currently the least important characters in our own narrative. We know this show will inspire urgent conversation both within our community and within the greater Arab world, and we are thrilled to be at the forefront of a movement in the making. Listen along as we grab the mic and add some much-needed Dearborn Girl spice to your morning chai. This week's DG Likes is one of our very own, Noor Maghrabi. If you've noticed the amazing artwork on our Instagram, you know just how talented Noor is. Aside from graphic design, Noor also paints, draws, does henna body art, as well as microblading. We are so lucky to be collaborating with this talented Dearborn girl and excited to share her with all of you. Check out her amazing work on her Instagram at NOOR_MOGHRABI, that's Noor_Maghrabi, or on her business page at Body Art by Noor. Rima Fadlallah here, proud daughter of Dearborn, professional love letter, and avid vibe capitalist. And today we have the pleasure of talking to Rana Elhusseini, Dearborn baller, Edinboro commit, and future WNBA star. How are you doing, Rana?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. And what award did you recently win?
So I recently got the Van Patrick Award, which is the Dearborn Athlete of the Year.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
How do you feel?
I feel very good. It's been a while since it's happened.
That's awesome. That's amazing. So we're going to jump right in. And we know that you love Nike shoes, and obviously we love Dearborn. So if Dearborn were a type of Nike shoe, which one would it be and why?
So I'd have to say it'd be the Nike Flyknit, the Air Maxes, just simply because it's just like the shoe, it's very close-knit, and not many people you really see wearing get that feel of that close-knit community.
So what does being a Dearborn girl mean to you, and has this identity changed over time?
Over the course of my years, I never really understood how it felt to be a Dearborn girl, just because I never really left the city, and once I did, I got that feel of where you're less, just because people don't really know your work ethic and stuff like that. So it's kind of it's a different feel. You kind of want things more for yourself than anybody else probably would. You just want to succeed and get to the top, and you always feel like you have a chip on your back because you have so much to prove in the process. So
why do you feel like you have a chip on your shoulder?
Just because not many people believe that we can do much. Even through our community, you kind of have to earn your respect doing stuff, and that's what I had to do, and that's what I'm experiencing now. So just trying to be at the top.
So you said you never really understood the identity because you never left. When was the point where you started better understanding your identity?
I'd say my junior years when I played AU ball. I went to Atlanta, Pittsburgh, and different states like that. And you'd see people, you wouldn't see anybody scarfed, or when I tell my coaches, I have to eat halal food, they didn't really understand what I meant, or when they see my mom and I'd walk in kind of nobody else looked like her, in other words, nobody looked like my dad, so it was a little bit harder adjusting to it, but you later understand that it's okay,
Yeah, definitely. Do you feel like there was ever a point where you were insecure about it? How have your feelings about who we are changed over time?
So, at some point, sadly, I had to feel what if a coach was racist, for example, and had something against Muslims and stuff like that. So I thought about that, but I talked to my parents, and they just say it's a privilege for me just to not surround myself around those kind of people, and whoever does accept me, I'm all for them, and I'd love playing for them and the program. So.
Yeah, definitely. Were there any stories during this time? So you said you got to travel a lot, I'm assuming, for AAU basketball. Mm-hmm. Were there any stories during this time where your identity did kind of come into play, or people asked you certain questions? Is your mom Hajibi?
Yes.
Okay, so did people who weren't used to your identity ask you questions, or were there ever experiences that you had playing basketball with other kinds of people that made you feel like you needed to defend your identity?
So it was the first time I went on a visit. Well, it was my second time, and then somebody asked me, they're where are you from? I told them the city of Dearborn and Lebanon and stuff like that, and they're I've never met anybody like that, and my mom was actually praying in the gym while the players were practicing, because like my mom likes to stay on top of stuff. And at that point, me and my sister were like, oh my God, I can't believe like she's doing this right now. I can't believe she's praying. They're gonna think like they're not gonna understand. And then after the coach, brought the team in a huddle, and I kind of had to explain to them, what she was doing. And it was more of like same thing like every other religion where you just sit down and pray, except like there's just certain times and certain stuff you have to wear. And they're very like understanding, and they're actually very happy that they learned something new at the end of the day, and they got a better understanding of what it means to be a Muslim.
Wow. Okay, so you're a senior in high school. You're on your way to going to Edinboro. So it's kind of like the end of one journey and the beginning of another journey. So can you tell us what about your journey makes you the most proud, and kind of walk us through the events that led up to this?
Okay, so if you asked me this 4 years ago, I'd probably tell you simply just making the varsity team at Fortson. If you asked me this 3 years ago, I'd tell you being able to compete for a championship. Unfortunately, we lost. If you asked me this my junior year, I would tell you it would be the first time we did win a championship in 20 years. And then if you asked me this today, it wouldn't even be about basketball. It'd just be, every Friday night, if you were like supporting and out there at Fortson, you'd see that the whole community came together to the point where there was kids sitting on the floor. All local elementary students, middle school students were out there watching us and supporting us. And when I lost my senior year, I was done playing for Fortson. Like the whole middle school, Lori in specific, they texted me saying, they wish they could be half the player I was, and they can't wait to like be there and just working. And that's really what I'm most proud of. Like at the end of the day, is just being able to inspire so many people without even knowing. And I hope one day they can all like lead and just kind of give back the same way. So
I love that. Wow, I love the way you frame that. So we're gonna switch gears a little bit. We talk about basketball and your personal journey. You kind of hit on the community a little bit right now. So being a Dearborn girl, one of the metaphors we talk a lot about is this idea that every Dearborn girl has to be an open book with missing pages. And what that really means is that the way our community is set up, you can't really talk about everything all the time. So do you agree that this is the case for most, if not all, girls in our community? And why or why not?
I definitely agree with that whole idea. I think a lot of girls who don't dream to be a doctor, who don't dream to be a pharmacist, anything in that field, really like to keep their dreams to themselves. I mean, I have a friend, she wants to become like a playwright writer. She wants to be able to like edit movies and just be in that whole like theater field. But she keeps her dreams to herself. And the second she finds somebody who kind of agrees, like a teacher, for example, they right away hop on there and they try to talk to them, because it's so hard to talk about your dreams. And it's so hard to like be open about certain stuff, just because like our city is not very like, they haven't been exposed to those kind of dreams, and you just kind of have to keep it to yourself. And that's kind of how I felt at some point too about being in. I never really told anybody I wanted to like play college until like they started noticing, and the second they noticed, that's when I opened myself up and started working towards my dreams. So I really think there's a lot of like people who really like stay quiet but show a lot of that Dearborn, like, I don't know how to word it. So like however like Dearborn sees it and how every girl should be, that's kind of what they focus on, and like be that person.
Wow. So you're saying people have like identities or interests or passions that they keep secret, and instead they just kind of pretend to be what they feel is acceptable.
Right. I just think that there's like kind of a set norm in a way, and people go from there. So
what made you start talking about it?
It would be like the love I got from my city. The second I started, like, they started putting me out there, and Twitter was the biggest social media like platform that I used, and they started posting me, really getting out there. And a lot of it was from the guys too, as much as like we say we don't care, like it does have a big factor. Like a lot of the guys came out and they started supporting me, and like by the end of my season it was all guys, and I just felt like I was doing something like good to be able to have that many guys. I had a girls basketball game, and you try to be accepted at the end of the day, and which sucks, but that's how it is. It's like hard to like believe differently. You have to drive the newest car in Dearborn, and it's hard to like be at your lowest when you want to be at your highest in that city, just because like the second you're at your lowest, you seem like everybody, like it's like the spotlight is on you, you know what I mean? Whereas like a lot of people look always like flexing, in other words, when really they don't have anything. And I learned that over time, that it doesn't really matter what you're wearing. At the end of the day, like 4 years from now, I'm not gonna be like, nobody's gonna look at me like oh, you were the star of 14, they're going to look at me what I'm doing now. So I just started, like, focusing on my future. And I think every Dearborn girl needs to know that, it doesn't really matter about the norm at that time. Just focus on the bigger picture. And if you want to do what you want to do, focus on that.
So what advice do you have to a girl who's in a similar situation to you and the friend that you talked about, who has a dream or has something that may be unconventional, but doesn't feel like that dream or passion is supported by the surrounding community? What would you tell her, or even your younger self that at that time?
I mean, I would tell her, who cares, If it's your dream, go after it. Nobody's going to chase it. And it's so funny because I went to speak to a bunch of Oakman kids, elementary, yesterday, and as I was walking out, there's a little girl crying, and I'm like, what's wrong? What's happening? And she's like, I want to be as good as you and the other kid. And I'm like, listen, this didn't happen overnight. I didn't tell anybody, just like you got to work, and you got to continuously work, and don't let anybody, like, stop you from working. Just, if you have to stay low-key for a while, stay low-key and just do whatever you have to do to get stuff done. So
Talk about your work ethic. So, like, what was it like? Like, what did your practices look like? What did what'd you do when you went home? What was your relationship to basketball during that time when you were more low-key and when people didn't really understand the hustle or really what you were trying to do with it?
I mean, it's like this day, like, people, like, have a hard time kind of understanding me, being, like, popular, in other words, like, being so known in the city. But yeah, I'm so to myself. And that's just because over time, like, the basketball court was my second home. Like, before football games, with, like, a lot of girls or, like, guys would be out tailgating. I would be in the gym, getting a workout, an hour before. I got to the point where my athletic trainer had to tell me, go home. It's, you need to rest your body more than you need to, like, keep working it. And so I just put, like, that over everything. And like I said, my parents were my best friends in that period. This last 4 years, like, they've been my best friends. My little sister and that one friend I told you, her name is Nadine Bazzi. A lot of people who know me.
Shout out Nadine Bazzi.
That's what's up. No, that's my best friend, and she's been supporting me this whole way, and that's pretty much it. Like, it's been hard to put everything aside and just avoid, going out at some points and just really focusing on myself and doing what I have to do. Like, Cedar Point trips, I missed all 4 years in the spring because I had tournaments, and I just had to sacrifice a lot of my time to get stuff done, and I'm very happy that I did because it brought me here today.
Wow. Yeah, that's not easy for a high schooler because, you articulate thinking a lot about the future and what you're going to care about in 4 years, but it's still hard to kind of make that trade-off in the moment when everyone else is, like, having these experiences. So that's a lot of foresight. That's amazing. So switching out of our experience in Dearborn alone, what are your thoughts on the way Arab Muslim women are perceived or portrayed on a global perspective?
So I do feel like we're probably one of the most underrated people, like, on the planet. You see, like, Nike advertising a lot of the women, and that's when we're the most underrated because they don't have to advertise, a white girl, like, for example, wearing anything. It doesn't have to be an issue. They just don't have to do that stuff, and unfortunately, they have to create different stuff, and they have to put it out there. And for example, like, if you're watching a show and, the second you see, like, a scarf lady, you're like, oh my God, but then you sit back and you're like, she was just, like, a spectator. In other words, they just throw you in there, and I just feel like we're very, like I said, underrated, and, it's unfortunate because, like, you just have a scarf on, for example, for scarfed girls, but other than that, we're the same as everybody else, every other religion and stuff like that, but they like to focus on, like, the stereotypes and everything we've been generalized, but I just think, like, if everybody put that aside, they'd see, like, how much, I feel like we'd, like, blossom a lot more. In other words, if the rest of the world believes, I think we would too.
So you talk about us being underrated and not being adequately represented in the media. How do you think that can improve? Like, what things would you like to see improved in the global media in terms of the way that we're portrayed?
I think it starts with us at the end of the day. I think we need to start putting ourselves out there a lot more, and when we are being represented, we need to put it out there more that we are Muslim, scarfed or not. We need to, like, make sure everybody knows, who we are, and I think that will follow going forth. Just, I think we're too quiet of people, and this is why I was so happy about this podcast because, like, it's showing, like, who we are. You know what I mean? So I mean, you're doing a good thing. Everybody's doing. We just gotta put ourselves out there. That's it.
Yeah. Wow. I wish I knew that at your age. Seriously. It's
Took
really
a while
powerful.
to get here.
Definitely. I agree. So you talk about, so we're talking about the global narrative. You hit a little bit on the idea that, you know, during your junior year, you went to a tournament in Atlanta. What other experiences have you had outside of Michigan? And what else have you learned from those experiences? Tell me more of those stories, like the story. Like I vividly imagine your mom taking the Masalia out and
It's
praying.
so yeah.
Like what other stories have you had like that?
So when I was thinking about schools, the first thing that I had to think about, unfortunately, was like the food. I already talked to my coaches, and I called the help center, and I was like, they called it a disability, actually, believe it or not.
Really? That you eat halal food, it's a disability?
Yeah, so I was like, my meat has to be cut a certain way, and
so you're disabled because you have to eat halal meat?
You should see, you don't even...
No, explain. I want to hear every detail of this.
I mean, I called them, and I was like, I have to eat a certain way, and like, that's when I had to talk to my coach personally and make sure that they understood, because it was like I was speaking a whole different language. They didn't understand that, I need my own privacy. I need my own room, just simply because like I need a clean place to be able to pray and do simple stuff like that. And it was just crazy, simply just because like they didn't understand. It's like I was speaking like a whole different language. So let me think. And like when I was on my old team, there was a reason I transferred. I don't really want to get specific with the names, but I transferred programs because of the fact that they didn't understand like who I was. A lot of the times when I had those the team dinners, I tell them like, please accommodate, work around my the fact that I don't want my parents to be chilling in the hotel while I'm out eating just a salad, but they didn't understand either. So I just every time I go out, I just probably get myself a salad or just kind of feel like I'm fitting in a little bit. And
so what, you don't say names, but like what was that experience like? So by not they just didn't respond to you when you would request those things?
I mean, like the majority of the girls were white and black, so it just...
You were the only Muslim girl?
Yeah,
okay.
And I think I was the only one ever in that program. And then I have somebody, I don't know if you know her, Fadwa Fawaz. She just put her daughter in that program, so, I love the program and all, but it's just little stuff like that, that do you really want to be around those kind of people who really don't understand, like, you? And when I picked my college choice, that's the biggest thing. I have people calling me, like a bunch of guys and like that have played previously, and they tell me like, you don't want to go away. They kind of like limited me, to just Dearborn. I tell them no, like I'll be okay. It's okay to experience. They'll be like, no, you're gonna come home like, first semester, and I'll just be like,
So these are guys from our community, Arab Muslim guys, who played elsewhere outside of Dearborn. Yeah. What were those conversations like? What were they saying?
I tried, like, I'm a person, like, I take everybody's advice, but I keep certain, like, I don't tell anybody no, like, I don't want to listen to, I listen to everybody, and I only, like, keep certain stuff with me, you know what I mean? So, like, a lot of the conversations, when they talk to me, I just be like, thank you at the end of the day, and that I'd want to go, like, I want to go away, and my dad would fully support me and tell me, you need to go away, it'll be good for you, and just, I picked where I feel like I'd grow the most, and I think I made the right choice going on with my next 4 years.
So they felt that if you went away, you would have like a huge culture shock and want to come back home to what you know. Do you feel like the first part of that is true? So maybe not necessarily you'll come running back home, but do you feel like being at Edinboro is going to be a culture shock?
I definitely think, like, I didn't disagree. I think that it'll be, like, one of the hardest times of my life. That's what I've been telling my family. It will be hard, but just don't let me come home. That's what I keep saying. Don't, because I will grow, and after the first semester, I will get used to it, and there's more to life than just Dearborn, and I love Dearborn. Dearborn will always be my home, and after those 4 years, I want to come back, give back, and help inspire other girls to go away, because that's what we need. And I was talking to my athletic director, and he told me, like, we need somebody to go and stay, because nobody's done it, and I want to be the first to do it. And I'm not caught up in the hype or any of that about being the first. I understand that it'll be hard, but someone needs to do it, and, I'm ready to be the first to do it.
He said, repeat what he said exactly?
He said, you need to go, and you need to stay, because nobody has done it, and you need to prove to everybody that we can do it, that we can go and and we'll be okay if we go away.
Wow. That's really powerful. Wow.
Yeah.
It's just so interesting because I think a lot of the things that you're talking about in this, in like your earlier responses about how we're being portrayed and how people don't even make an effort to really understand something as basic as like, just give me food I can eat every day, right?
Right.
I feel like those little things are so much of a contributor to why people don't feel comfortable staying, you know, like they go and they know it's going to help them grow, but find themselves coming back home to a community that understands them.
Right.
So, and you're saying that you don't disagree. You know that it's going to be hard. You know, you've already created preventative measures telling your parents, like, don't let you come back. So what kinds of things are you anticipating running into or dealing with or finding extremely challenging during your time there?
So I went over for an overnight visit, and of course there's a lot of parties and drinking, and you know they'd be like, all right, it's only 6%, you know, little stuff like that, and I'd be like, you guys just don't understand that, like I can't, you know what I mean, like it's our culture, our religion, you know, and I understand that it'll be hard to find people who like understand me, and I always tell my sister, you know, I can't wait to find like the first Muslim person there. I'm just gonna like run to them, and so like it's gonna be hard, like I said, to find people who really understand me, and you know, accommodating different situations, like you know, what I have to eat for that night, or you know, where I'm gonna pray for that night, you know, making sure everything's always clean, and just like certain stuff that you need, like that you want to drink, or like just get, you know, it won't be there, but you know, it'll be okay that it's not there, because like in 4 years I will be back here for sure. So
So what are you thinking to study while you're there?
I hope to study physical therapy.
So tell me about your like tenure, because I think from our conversation I gather that you are a very futuristic person. You're always thinking about the future. So what does your like 5 or 10 year plan look like? And don't be scared to talk about it. Remember the advice you gave other girls.
So 5 or 10 years from now, I hope to be a physical therapist, but I always say I want it to be as my like side job, you know what I mean? Rather than my first. I want to come back here and just train as much as I can. And the other day I was actually sitting and I'm like, you know, after those 4 years, I want to, because my little sister will be a sophomore at Fortson, and I was actually thinking about a gap year just to stay and just help Fortson, you know, in that process and help them grow. And then I was like, you know, what am I doing? You know, how can I put like, you know, girls that I don't even know like before me? But I just care so much for these little girls, just to like help them see, because it was so hard for me to like know what to do, know who to talk to in that process, and I want to make like everybody else's process like a lot easier than it was for me, and just be that person that, you know, I never had. So going forward, like I kind of want to come back and just, you know, help coach, but I also want to like open up my own place and hopefully you know, help people, like I said.
Open up your own place with
physical therapy and like gym, and like help a lot of these like ladies like in our community who like lose weight, you know what I mean? So I kind of want to like connect it with a gym, because I think a lot of the ladies in our community don't like have that right now. Even though there's so many gyms, they don't have like somebody to personally tell them and help them in that process as well. So
I love how committed you are to the community. Have you always been like that?
You know, it's so funny because like I was yelling at my friend earlier, and I'm like, I am a Dearborn girl, you know. I hate like you said earlier, you know, you never used to like accept it, but it's just like it came to me like on its own. I didn't ask for this position, but it just happened. So
yeah,
I mean, I'm very proud. So
we're proud of you.
We're
proud to call you one of us, and we're proud to be one of you too. Where people, has there been like, have you told anyone about being on the podcast? Have people been confused by like you being willing to be part of like something called Dearborn Girl? Is that where the conversation came from?
That's literally where
Tell me what happened. So I, mean, I love hearing this.
We were talking, and then she's like, you know, I've never heard of this. You know, what is it like? You know, she's just like so confused, and I'm like, I'm a Dearborn girl. You know, we gotta put our stories out there. She's like, that's so weird. And I'm like, it's not weird. She's like, that's weird. She's like, if you weren't a part of it, you'd think it's weird. I'm like, no. I'm like,
that's such a Dearborn girl response.
Literally, I'm like, you're literally the Dearborn girl, but you're just the opposite.
When we're offline, you give me her contact information so we could bring her on the show.
We do. I told her, I'm like, listen, a couple years when you're big, you know, you're gonna come back and you want to do the same thing. She started laughing, but no, she's all for it, and she's always supporting, and it's so funny because like I grew because she once mentioned like, you know, going away for college and school, and I was like, no, that's so weird. Like, you don't want to go away. Like, you know, you just want to stay here. But, you know, now I'm going away, so it's just crazy. Like,
it is crazy.
Your mindset just changes when you're in that position.
100%. I never thought I would come back.
Yeah, I mean, who would ever thought I would be on a Dearborn Girl? Like, every time anybody says Dearborn Girl, I'm like, no, I'm not a Dearborn Girl. I'm going away. I'm not a Dearborn Girl. But I'm very proud today, you know. When you really understand what it means to be a Dearborn Girl, you realize, like, it's such a good thing to say, you know, to be a part of that, to be able to say that, you know, you're a Dearborn Girl.
What is it specifically that makes you so proud to be a Dearborn Girl?
Just, you know, your work ethic, just to make the place such a better place, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure like a couple years ago, I don't know like your train of thought, but I don't know if you thought about doing this or for a while or like what's led to you to being here today. But you know, you don't just like nobody can just do this. You know, you have to go through stuff. You have to like really understand like how hard it is to like fit this position. And once you do, you realize like, you know, you've done so much and you just want to help everybody else around you and just make sure that everybody gets this understanding, because not many people really understand it. So
yeah. Definitely. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Rana.
Thank you.
We enjoyed talking to you. We're really proud of you. We're really excited for what's to come. And we're definitely going to stay tuned with your journey.
For sure. Hopefully I'll be back.
Like you will be back. You won't be back until you're done. So you're gonna go and stay, and then you're going to come back.
That's right.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed hanging out with some of your favorite Dearborn girls. If you haven't subscribed already, we have no idea what you're waiting for. And while you're anxiously waiting for next week's episode to drop, be sure to follow us on Instagram at dearborn.girl or visit us at www.fordearborn.com. See you next week.